Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Right at the top of the show, I'm doing sponsor list. It's in front of me right now, no more getting almost to the end. I say no more, but I mean this week in particular. No getting to the end and going, oh yeah, like I do every fucking week. Demonetized. Anyway, so for anyone who doesn't know, the reason why we have Patreon sponsors is because of situations like that where I say the F word and all of a sudden videos demonetized and not earning money on YouTube. Gave people the option to support the stream on Patreon, and I shout out those who support $5 or more depending on how much they're contributing. So we have a couple of new standard sponsors this week. We have the Lame Weeb and Ashen Emiya of Cerberus. So thank you for your addition to the pledge. We have MrSynestrrr, Argoti, Fafarian, Rendil, Giraffeswillrule, and Stevie-Rex, as well as Neon for our standard sponsors. We then move up to our elite sponsors, where we have Mrhappy, Ellisan Le'ore, Sour Cream and Chives from the Genova server, Velestra of Famfrit, Kurayoshi, and the Reckless Tea Party on Cactus. I said Reckless Tonberry on... I didn't say it, but the text said it on State of the Realm, and I fixed it. I promise, Kira. Ignis Fairgun from the Diablo server, Goetia of Serren, Jean-Francois, Themacholuis, Hersh, Fersh of Faerie, Phoenix Downfree Company on Goblin, Serren from Zodiark, Rynoet Chikara, and that was the last name for the elite sponsors. And then we have the premium sponsors, Krovos Moonscar, Naku Niame of Balmung Era, and the Avon Blanc Free Company on Zodiark. We have Janua Odin of Tonberry, Aqua's Sacrifice, Obaidel Shamsi, Spike, Nadi and Kirasame, Rudy Rudiger, TinColossus, Khuja Cross of the Genova server, Ahmed, Kurenai Oni, Abdullah, Killer Hackman, Raul Jr, Darklight 2013, Arthur Emil Gaming Bishop, and Kiltastic Jones. Thank you, all the sponsors, for supporting the show, getting us through hashtag demonetized more than sufficiently. On that note, this week, Final Fantasy 15 Comrades came out. Played that a shit ton. I'm also continuing the story in Final Fantasy 11, and the remaining tours of Vana'diel will be releasing throughout the week. I believe we have 15 parts of it total, maybe 16 or 17. I might be missing one or two, but those will be out on YouTube this week, as well as a ton of Comrades-related guides for Final Fantasy 15, as well as some other stuff that I'm working on, including the healer verses. Haven't forgotten about you. However, we got a few questions to get through, and I'm running a little late because I played 11 a little bit longer, because I might have had the opportunity to do a little bit of Omen, but didn't get the opportunity. So let's hop into the questions ASAP. All right, so this first one I was told about in advance, so I actually have this set up in such a way. Hey, Hap, I think I've come up with a new recipe. So I have a Cup Noodles sponsorship deal. Oh, I had Cup Noodles this morning for Final Fantasy 15 crossover, and the recipe is roll the dice. So a lot of you guys who watch every week, you know that this is one of those questions where I generally pick a question based on a topic. However, they have given me 6 hidden options, and I'm going to use a D&D like internet dice roll in order to determine which one we use. Now, I can't pull that up on the screen. However, I do have one, and I'm at wizards.com/D&D/dice/dice.htm. And yes, I did say /dice twice, and that's how it is. And I'm going to roll the D6, and it landed on 6. So you'll have to trust me on that one, but trust me, it rolled on 6. I made sure you could hear the mouse press. Number 6. I guess it was 2 weeks ago someone edited his or her question to ask you something about Ultimate Coil. Are you okay with 2 questions if there aren't too many asking multiple questions? And what is your comment on the question roulette format? That's actually a pretty good one. So yeah, I'm perfectly okay with people asking more than one question as long as it's within reason. Like sometimes people do like machine gun questions and I'm like, okay, that's cool. They're like super short answers and I get through a lot of them. But sometimes people do like these huge elaborate questions where they like post multiple times. And that I kind of like to avoid. When there's only like 16 questions like this week, it's generally okay. But if I've had weeks where there's like 30 questions, and that is where it's like, okay, I will literally only take the first question in the list. It depends on if there's any hot topics going on in the community at the time. As for comment on the question roulette format, and I like how... Oh, you asked me 2 questions, but I'm going to answer them both because that's kind of the point of it. What is your comment on question roulette format? It's fun. On this one in particular, I'm assuming. It's fun because it basically allows me to kind of pick a topic I actually want to answer, or at least to try and guide myself towards one. This is interesting just because I have no choice. Once I've rolled the question, I have to answer it. But that being said, if I ran into something that was like a horrible question, I would probably re-roll the dice at the very least. So, yeah, that all works out. All right, number 2, Kupo, Mrhappy, Moot Mog here, asking a first-time question. Have a bonus of fully maxed reputation on the next available Beast Tribe quest. Not the turtles. I like the turtles. I'm maxed out on them now. My question is, how do you perceive Blue in 14's Trinity, and how do you see it function? So I've gotten this question a few times, but it's been probably a few months since I got a how does Blue Mage tank in 14 question, which is, by the way, almost everyone just straight up asks me how do I imagine they would function as a tank. I don't really want to talk much about how they would function, because they would function exactly like the other tanks do. You use skills, they provide you defensive buffs, you hold aggro while dealing damage. Functionally, they'd be the same. They're not going to be able to do anything crazy different, because if you're restricting something to the role of a trinity, then the ultimate goal of how they achieve that is the only major difference. At that point, you don't even have to talk about how they tank, you just have to talk about how they play. And for that, I couldn't really answer adequately. Most people like to talk about how they would learn their skills, and I think they would just go through a classic Blue Mage job quest if they ever did it in the game. I am of the opinion, though, that if Blue Mage could be in 14, I wouldn't even want it to be like the other Blue Mages. I'd almost want it to be more like WoW's Druid, where you transform into different creatures and that's how you take on their skills, as opposed to the way that other people imagine it being more like Final Fantasy XI or some of the old school Final Fantasies. So who knows if they'll ever do Blue Mage? Who knows if it'll be a tank? Nobody knows anything, but that's how I would perceive it taking on that role. For number 3, hey Haps, how's it Hengen? Sorry, I saw the E and I had to Hengen. First time post for me, so I have a bonus of Ice Cold Crystal Pepsi. So I've had Crystal Pepsi. They re-released a bunch of them for the anniversary of it. Not gonna lie, it's supposed to be just Pepsi without the food coloring. I actually think somehow it tastes worse than Pepsi. I had a whole 6-pack of them, and then I had regular Pepsi, and I was like, I don't know. They were different somehow. I like regular Pepsi better. 2 questions. With the implementation of the Bard role-playing actions, hey, that's this Tuesday, or songs they will be able to perform, what else do you think we could see from other classes that are similar? Not a whole lot. Bard has the unique property of being a performer, or being capable of performance, since its primary focus is on music. You know, we don't have a class that specifically sings or plays the guitar or anything like that. Maybe warriors could innately be better at chopping trees. Like, maybe you could do that. But other than this, which is a very specific thing, or like if you had like a painter job, which is like an old school Final Fantasy thing, like maybe, but none of our currently existing jobs I can imagine. Maybe I don't know, maybe the summoner could hold a circus and make Carbuncle jump through hoops or something. I don't know. So yeah, I don't really have a good answer for that. Also, I've been leveling Black Mage if I want to know, and I want to know if at a high level play, if it's hard to maintain yourself. I'm not an expert Black Mage. Got it to 70. Is mine at 70? No, mine's not even at 70 yet. My bad. Mine is like 65, 66-ish. And it's... Maintaining Black Mage is about knowing ahead of time where you're going to need to be located, not reacting to mechanics. So you generally have to educate yourself about encounters a little bit better, or you have to approach them from a means of, in 10 seconds, I will need to be in that spot. How can I get as many spellcasts off from now until then while making sure I ensure I'm in that location 10 seconds from now? And whether that could be a triple cast or a swift cast or an ethereal manipulation, any of those things is up to you. And as someone who's not an expert Black Mage, I don't feel like it's my right to tell you how to achieve those things. It is also not the strongest DPS. Out of 10, where is it in regards to difficulty? Rotationally, very easy. Positionally, very punishing. So it's all about that forward thinking when it comes to Black Mage and figuring out where you need to be 10 seconds from now, as opposed to where you are at the current moment and going, oh shit, I need to move. Oh man, we got a lot of text here. Buenos dias, Senor Feliz. Buenos dias. After replaying Heavensward through an alt, I feel like Midgard Summoner was one of the biggest letdowns. A lot of people agree. I'd agree with that. In the build-up between the end of 2.0 and leading up to Heavensward, I can't help but feel the loss of the Blessing of Light was a much bigger deal than the story ended up portraying. With the expansion delving deeply into the conflict between man and dragon, I can't feel like he was criminally underutilized. He tried to really maintain a neutral standpoint, and it just made him feel underwhelming, yeah. All that aside, I want to ask about the Whelp version of Midgardstormer and the status of the Big Daddy version. Did his original form die at the Battle of the Lake? So, the form we have with us is his reincarnation. That big form at the lake doesn't function anymore. His spirit, his energy, his ether is with us. I'm sure if he wanted to, he could return to that, but considering the way we've seen his growth, it doesn't really make sense to me for it to function, for him to do that from a story standpoint. So it didn't die. He could probably go back to it, but he's not there anymore. What does the Whelp form mean and how is it sustained? It's his ether. He basically took his own ether and reformed himself as a Whelp. That's why he can kind of come and go as he pleases. He's with us all the time, but he's not, like, physically on our shoulders, you know, constantly. So think of it more like that. I understand that we wanted to see the Warrior of Light stand on his own 2 feet. Does that mean the Warrior of Light lost the power of the Echo throughout the course of Heavensward and was mortal? The Blessing of Light and the Echo are not innately the same thing. The Blessing of Light doesn't provide the Echo. However, Echo-sensitive individuals are very often gifted or are possible candidates for the Blessing of Light. So yeah, it's a little bit different. They're not one and the same. You can have one without the other, because we had the Echo before we got the Blessing of Light. If you remember back to A Realm Reborn, we have Echo flashbacks before we've even gathered a single crystal in order to actually obtain Hydaelyn's Blessing of Light. So just they're not inclusive, they're exclusive to each other. When the whelp changed from form to rideable Drake, I assume that was his body maturing. No, that's kind of like him just taking a new form with his ether, because you can see back in, as you mentioned here at the Omega storyline, he's back to being a whelp. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He's Midgardsormr. What do you think will happen to him in the future? I think he's gonna play a major role in the future of the Omega series, but I hope that that's not the end of him, and I don't think that it will be. Alright, number 5. Yo, Haps, I've got 3 for you, but they should be short, I think. This is funny. We had a question, hey, do you mind getting more than one question? And then a bunch of questions with more than one question. Or a bunch of posts with more than one question. So, you know, if when they do Ultima Weapon Ultimate, there's going to be a Titan phase where he's pushing people off the stage. I don't think they will. I'm not going to lie, I don't think if they do a Titan phase in Ultima... Actually, that's not true. I do think that Ultima would transform the battlefield between the 6 different battlefields at some point. But at the same time, I think that would pull away from the fact that it's Ultima Weapon with them infused. But let's be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Ultima Weapon literally sent you to an ultimate version, like a 2-minute phase for like each of them, or some of them working together. Who knows? They're crazy, dude. Pseudo's a crazy but awesome gentleman. Whether or not they'll use permadeath for the fall is a big question I have, even if they did regular Ultimate Titan. I think they'd redesign it to not be permanent in terms of you falling off. As much as that's the nostalgic emotion that people remember from Titan, it's just not how falling off the arena works nowadays. So I actually think that if they do an Ultimate Titan or an Ultimate Titans there and you can fall off, that it wouldn't be permanent. Especially because it's not Titan Ultimate, it's Ultima Ultimate. And if the arena's going to change, like not be Titan's arena the whole time, I just don't think they would do a permanent fall off for him, personally. Do you think it would be cool when the dev team would consider doing something like merging the mount and companion systems, so any owned mount could be summoned as a combat buddy in place of the Chocobo? They had something originally planned for the Magitech mount in particular, where that was going to be an alternative to the Chocobo, but I think the amount of animations you'd have to create for this is really not worth it, because the Chocobo companion system has kind of been left in the dust. Like, we still can't take them in the dungeons. We can at least queue for stuff with them out, and visually, I suppose it would be cool for shit like hunts. It would also be visually annoying, because everybody already summons Chocobos for hunts now. But I don't think functionally it serves much of a purpose, and in terms of visual appearance, it's such a select situation to put so much development time into that I don't think it's really worth ever allowing that to exist. And I just don't think players would care if there's still not really much a reason to use your Chocobo companion for many things. I ran Temple of the Fistus Dragoon, and the tank would keep moving to the next pull. Before the last pull was all gone, I couldn't restore TP, resulting in having to single target throughout a couple large pulls. I was thinking that's a bad way to tank. I was wondering if maybe you know something I could do differently as a physical DPS. As a physical DPS, you do, if the party's kill speed isn't high, this is what happens. So if you're a tank and you're large pulling, but your party is killing slow, and not necessarily single targeting down each, but just the DPS isn't there. Like, maybe they're not using cooldowns, maybe their AoE rotation isn't the greatest. You know, maybe, you know, maybe you as a tanker are not outputting enough damage. Maybe the healer's not outputting any damage. You know, you have to keep all of these things in mind when, as a tank, you do large pulls. So as a physical DPS, running out of TP if the pulls are going like that is not too surprising. I mean, you get an Invigorate, and if you have another physical DPS with you, get Goad. And that's it. You know, maybe you have a Bard that's playing the sound, or Bard or a Machinist that's playing Tactician, but that's, you know, that's not something you can reliably do. So don't feel bad about having the single target. It's just the result of a pull like this. And this is more on the tank, kind of not assessing the party's needs before making a decision, or the party itself not keeping up with the pace of the tank. This is just what happens when there's discord in the rate of play between the players in like a random dungeon. Damn, that 12 hours went fast. Anyway, I have 2 questions. How are you enjoying comrades? Better than expected. It definitely still has a lot of issues. For example, you can't make a party in advance and then queue into a hunt, and then you can't repeat the hunt without going through a bunch of loading screens. So that I'd like to see them address. The Viv needs to shut the fuck up. The load times are too long because it loads basically the entire map, the world map, before it lets you through. So they need to just cut back how much it actually loads. That way they can actually lower the load times. And other than that, it was pretty good. You get a little too overpowered. It's kind of like the main game a little bit, where eventually you can kind of do builds that just straight up decimate everything. But it takes a pretty long time before you get to those builds, even if you have the right direction to know how you should be working towards them. And 2, how do you think the next expansion Red Mage will get AoE heal? No. It's not going to happen. It's not a healer. They're not going to go out of their way to give it another healing skill. I know that you can maybe argue that it's a utility that makes it unique. Nah, they ain't gonna get that. Sorry. Alright, number 7. Hey, Happy. Thanks for answering my question about the success of Ultimate Coil. How many groups have cleared now? I don't know. I haven't been keeping up. I'm sure more groups have cleared, but people stopped talking about new groups that have cleared. It's just not news anymore. So I don't know. I mean, last I had counted, and I know there's been more since, at least 7 groups. But there's more. There's more now. I just haven't counted since then. Since you entered the one last week, let's try for 2 this time. Set 1. What do we got here? Earthly Eorzea. I'm of the belief that areas in Stormblood are Asia. No, they absolutely are. If you look at the map, it very much resembles areas of the eastern side of the world. So Eorzea kind of is almost, if it's in the shape of Africa, in a sense. You then have to the north of us Garlemald, which would be the equivalent of Europe into Russia. You then have the Middle East, which rests between the two of them, and it's the southern part of the continent. And then you have China and Japan. Hingashi is Japan, and Yansha is China. And yes, they all absolutely take from real-life representations. If we go to the west of where we are in Eorzea, I'm sorry, the name of the continents are slipping my mind. Our continent, where we start the game. I'm just going to leave it at that because my brain is just not working right now. To the west is called the New World, which obviously would represent the Americas, and then to the south you have the Meracidia, which would take on Australia. So yeah, there's real geography plays into it. It's not a one-for-one match, but you can very clearly see the way that Eorzea is shaped versus the actual planet Earth. And that there's definitely inspirations to some degree within those areas. The cost of looking good. Oh, I see, understand. So you did 2 sets. All right, so I'm only going to take one of these sets. I'm not going to answer all of them. Let's see. I know they said they're going to redo, revamp, update, blank the glamour system. I understand it being fixed in 1 of 2 ways. I wonder if they ever consider making forever prisms. I don't know what a forever prism would be. You mean one prism that makes it... No, see, that's not fixing the glamour system. One forever prism, basically, you're implying you never need to purchase more off the market board. I think with the new system, you won't be purchasing things off the market board anyway. Not to say that they couldn't do that, but it's very likely that it's going to work closer to the transmogrification system of World of Warcraft, where basically after you've earned a piece of gear, its look is registered on your account, and then you could just select that look and place it over your actual current stuff, and then you could do that on a slot-per-slot basis. That's what I'd like to see happen, but... we'll see. Square Enix has kind of a roundabout way of doing things. I'm hoping that whatever they are working towards, it is something closer to the way that the transmogrification system works in World of Warcraft. Alright, number 8. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hi. Long-time watcher and first-time asking. First off, I want to thank you for all the hard work of making videos, guides, and bringing joy to the community. Some would say I make them happy. Anyway, I've learned so much about the Final Fantasy series from your best year video that you make me love exploring the world of 14 that much more. Love your videos, so please enjoy a first-time bonus of a fan that doesn't make enough noise to be noticeable in the audio, but just powerful enough to keep you nice and cool. Yeah, I have central air. That's gonna get it's gonna be loud and fucking annoying, but it's gonna keep me nice and cool. My question is, have you ever thought about making a video of you, Sly, Mary, and Ethis running a dungeon or raid together? No, because there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But dungeon's not hard enough for us to talk shit. We'd have to almost do something like Nest style. Like doing something that actually requires some thought. Like maybe at least a primal like Shinri or something. But a dungeon. Dungeon, we just... literally, it'd be us talking about anything but the game, which we already kind of do on State of the Realm. My nose won't stop itching. It's nothing wrong with it inherently. It's just we all already play on different servers. 3 of us are on different data centers. And it's... It'd be a lot to just run a dungeon together, and I don't think we'd necessarily downsif for that idea. Alright, number 9. What's happening, Mr. Happy? Finger guns. Hey, hope all is good. All is going well. 2 questions this week. Let's do it. 1. The main scenario question roulette gives a decent chunk of EXP when you're leveling a job. I understand a lot of players are up to date on the story, tend to just speedrun it. My question is, why don't they have 1 or 2 for each expansion so it becomes more of a roulette instead of a coin toss? Because doing another dungeon like that is concerning. They did a 4-man dungeon in that of the Aetherochemical Research Facility. They didn't give it any loot, which was the bad side, but they also didn't give any loot to the previous story quests. One of the main concerns is when you need 8 people, even if you're going to throw it in the roulette, it does slow things down a little bit. And I can understand where they're coming from with that in that regard. If there's something that's like technically you only need to have it done once, some people could just choose to ignore the main scenario roulette. A lot of people do. So I don't think you want to add more 8-man dungeons. On top of that, with the main scenario roulette, it's there specifically to get people through Castra Meridianum and Praetorium. If you add more dungeons to it, then what's going to end up happening is the newer dungeons are going to appear more frequently on the roulette, because the players that are queuing for the roulette are the players that have access to everything. And they're more likely to get the higher tier one than they are the lower tier one most of the time, because there's more people who are level able to get to those and are doing them more frequently, especially when it's something more recent. That's why whenever you get like the trial roulette and like a new normal mode primal has come out, you tend to get that primal a lot in that roulette, at least for a while. By the time it's offset, you've kind of already just, it just keeps adding on to it, and it keeps making it harder to specifically get through the specific story quests that they already have to shovel people into. So that's why I think they don't do it anymore. It's a multitude, it's just a combination of all those things. 2, I remember a while ago you said you were fairly excited for Destiny 2. Yeah, then I saw what they were planning on doing for the launch and how the content was spread out, and it reminded me exactly of the content that was a bit. It was basically the same content as Destiny 1, they just spread it out over 2 weeks. And like they did that with Destiny 1 also, where they delayed the normal mode raid and then they had the hard mode raid come out. And I was like, you know what? I learned my lesson from the first one. I'm gonna say fuck this. Honestly, I'm a bit disappointed. Destiny 2 pretty much said, hey, Destiny 1 has evolved over all these years. It's got all this new content. They've had so many quality of life changes. There's a great deal of things to do. The PvP is very much liked. Then Destiny 2 comes around and says, yeah, all that shit, throw it out. We're starting over. And I get it. It's a new game. But that fucking sucks, man. I've seen people literally just logging back into Destiny 1 and being like, well, fuck it. Destiny 2 ain't got no content. I'm going to go back and play Destiny 1. And you know what? I can't fault them for that. I really can't fault them for that. Oh, and the story for Destiny 2 is presented better, but still really fucking short. So, disappointed. And if they do that again with Destiny 3, man, people are already not happy with the way it turned out for Destiny 2. They are not going to be really happy if Destiny 3 does the same fucking thing. Alright, number 10. Hey, guy. Hey. So, thanks for your Monk skill speed insight from last week. Now, relatively old question should be easy for you. We're doing my main scenario roulette at Castrum. Is that an airplane? I don't know what the fuck that was. Main scenario roulette at Castra Meridianum when the party reaches the TinColossus Rubricatus, the one that tethers the ads that Sid kills. Why is it most tanks don't bring it to Sid so he can deal damage to it while attacking the generator? Or am I wrong that Sid's damage isn't really... Yeah, Sid... Dude, they die so quick, it's like, fuck it. We'll kill them in 2 seconds anyway. Most people just... Like, the tanks barely even gather them up. The tanks really try to go over there and do something, or one of the tanks does, and then they just die instantly anyway. It's like, it's not worth the effort of rounding everything up and bringing them over there when the players will literally annihilate those things in like 2 GCDs. Bonus question. Do you use strength pots? Yeah. You don't use pots, you use infusions. Infusion of strength is the way to go because they last 30 seconds. Yeah, if you're doing actual content, if you're just doing like a dungeon, don't waste the money on that shit. If you're doing raids or primals and you're going for kills or farming or... Yeah, I use them. I have hundreds of those things. I think I have like 600 infusions of strength on my character right now. Alright, number 11. Hey, Mr. Happy. Final Sim here. Welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays weekly Q&A show where you ask questions, you answer them. After finishing all my leave allowances, done all the Ixal and Moogle Beast Tribe quests, and done with my Grand Company turn-ins, what can I do to level my crafters? Well, you know what? You do it the old school way. You craft. I know, it's crazy, right? Yeah, you know what? As someone who hates leveling crafting and refuses to do exactly that, that is the other option. You can also do collectible hand-ins, if I'm not mistaken. Not Grand Company turn-ins. Can't you also do collectible hand-ins? I think you can. As a not crafter. As a not crafter, that's a maybe. I'm completely dumb and ignorant to everything that is crafting. I honestly, I just do daily reset stuff, and I still haven't even done that. So, meh. Another question now, the Goldsmith is 70. How do you go about obtaining gear? Most people don't just get one and then get gear for it. They get all their crafters to 70 and then get an Omni crafting set that has all the melds that they need. So most people craft it themselves. Some people buy the upgraded gear, but those are your options. Craft it yourself or buy it, and you get it. All right, number 12. Happy howdy, Mr. Happy. With all the technology and the lore, hashtag bicycle mount. No, it was a speed problem. Don't be like, oh, they increase the speed whenever you buy that item. No! 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 No cloud motorcycle. But actually, you know what, though? A bicycle? I'll accept it. For Thanksgiving, are you going to join the celebration in Gridania giving thanks to the elementals? Roasted dodo. You know, I don't really do Thanksgiving much. I present my thankfulness, but I don't like I don't do a feast. I haven't done a feast in years. Let's see. Oh, this is a roulette. Shortness sounds like a lawful question. I'm going to go future. All right. In your opinion, will the Empire ever replace the dead legatuses? Do you know what they're supposed to? I'd imagine that their hierarchy calls for it. Hey, we have this whole army that doesn't have a leader anymore. What should we do? Eh, fuck it. Let them go. They'll figure some shit out. They'll figure out who's in charge. Yeah, I'd have to imagine that they, like, consider it. They just need, like, an able-bodied individual. And I'd imagine that it's not like they just pick someone like, hey, you're next in line, come here. You know, those people had to climb to that ranking in some way, and I don't think there's many people climbing the rankings right now after the Civil War and after the death of several of the legatuses. What else do we have here? No, yeah, I guess that's the answer to my question. Yeah, I'd imagine they're supposed to, they just haven't. All right, number 13. Quickie question. Nice. Since we know now that closed fists can be and have been animated, why haven't they fixed the Emperor's New Fist to be closed and not look stupid? I don't know. I haven't used Emperor's New Fist, but I'm just gonna assume that you're like this in a sense, and it looks real like you're like this because you're like supposed to be grappling the sides of it. So I don't know. I didn't design it. I don't know. All right, number 14. Hello, Mr. Happy. I hope you're enjoying Comrades. I am. Here are my questions. Are the stats based on character race still in the game? I am currently a Highlander, but I've been thinking and changing to Midlander or Lalafell. I am more inclined to Lalafell, but the Goro armors, Goro? Yeah, the dude with 4 arms from Mortal Kombat. The Goro armors look too hilarious on them. I haven't made or even touched the character creation screen in a pretty long time. I can give you 2 answers. One is, I have no idea and my chat's going to tell me in 2 seconds. 2 is, it doesn't even really matter. Stats on that are so, like, it was always, like, barely any points. Like, at most, I think it was a 6-point difference. It wasn't ever worth caring about in the first place. You know, this isn't old school Final Fantasy 11 or, like, old school WoW where, like, race matters so much more. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. I thought that they got rid of them. It looks like my chat's agreeing with me on that one. I was under the impression that maybe they had removed them because no one gives a shit anyway. But yeah, they didn't matter in the first place. So I was just fucking Fantasia, bro. Just Fantasia. Let's see. I have read from so many people that there's nothing to do in game. However, I often find myself being overwhelmed by the things to do here. Raids, crafting, PvP, housing. Before 14, I played Champions Online, which releases a new 5-minute dungeon every year. That's not content. That's what we get every 3.5 months. I would Kappa, but I'm telling the truth. Anyway, do you think my previous experience made me set the bar too low? Listen, if your previous experience is you getting a 5-minute dungeon every fucking year, there's no bar there at all. Maybe a bar of soap, and even then, that's not even a clean experience in an MMO. So, I'll say this. If you're someone who just takes your time and enjoys the ride, you get a lot more mileage out of it. Maybe you're one of those players. If you're someone like me, who just beats the shit out of it and then whines and bitches that there's nothing to do because we overconsume the content playing fucking 7 to 10 hours a day, yeah, it's gonna happen. And to be fair, I still have plenty of shit to do. All my crafters aren't leveled, all my jobs aren't level 70, but it's a matter of level of interest versus number of things to actually do. And a lot of people, like, they like one specific aspect and they want that aspect to have more. And if they don't, then there's nothing to do. Like, I want more raids. Great. You know what? There aren't more raids. There's shit for everyone, but there's not more shit that I want to do. Instead of saying that we need more of this, I should say I would prefer to have more of this. And you know what? Maybe if enough people prefer it, they do it. And if they don't, well, too bad. I'm one person in a much larger economy of the game. And economy was not the right word. I know, actually, I think I know the word that I wanted, but I'm not gonna try and guess what it was. And so yeah, that's what you get. And also, people like me, we're the loudest. Come on. You hear me yelling into the microphone? Ah! Ah! There's nothing to do! There's nothing to do! Ah! Ah! We're the fucking loudest and obnoxious, and I understand when people don't fucking like us. 3, what are you planning to buy on Black Friday? Dude, I did an early Black Friday sale, got a new TV already, because our old TV broke. So that's it. That's it. That was the plan. Alright, I think we have 2 questions left on the forums. Hey, Haps, offer me a few words of comfort because a couple days ago my hard drive died. It sucks. There'll be another hard drive out there. There's a sea of hard drives. The loss of your one hard drive, it's difficult. I know. But you know what? With one hard disk comes another hard disk. I said disk. Don't mishear me. Sorry, I just need to vent with that, and out of the way, let's get to this week's question. Throughout the years, the start of Realm Reborn to current Stormblood, Yoshi P has let the idea of the hybrid role. No, he said that, like, at the beginning, and even just before Realm Reborn launched. We're never gonna have it. And he didn't say that if it was time to bring in the hybrid role. He just said, would it have to function as such? He wasn't like, oh, maybe we shouldn't make a whole new role for it. It was more like, I don't really know how it would. You know how, have you ever just like heard something be like, I don't really know. Like, you could do this, you could do that, but what actually works? I guarantee you, no matter what, that role will never exist. Because the hybrid role in itself is a redundant thing that doesn't really make sense in any game that has the Holy Trinity. Everyone in the game outside... Oh, I'm sorry. Tanks and healers literally already function as a hybrid. Because in serious endgame raiding, as a healer, you're expected to learn how to DPS and heal at the same time as a tank. Your goal is to hold aggro and then output as much DPS as possible while popping the right cooldowns. And DPS are roles to DPS. And they're not, and our job is to make it easier on the tanks or the healers, whether it be for enmity changes or, you know, buffs to healing or just killing the boss faster so they don't have to do as much. Everyone in a way already functions as a hybrid role in Final Fantasy XIV. But the only other thing that could happen is the idea of you being able to choose, hey, do I want to play DPS right now, healer right now? But then you have the problem where all the current DPS don't have that option. You're not just going to add healing options to, like, fucking Monk and just be like, well, you know, the tanks and the healers get to choose between 2 things, but what the fuck did the DPS do? That's the only other idea of a hybrid, where it's not even a hybrid, it's more of a choice of specs. And that's never going to fucking happen. It's never going to happen. They're never going to do one job that is like, I am both of these things at the same time. Red Mage is as close as you're going to get with the healing and the rezzing, but they're never going to legit do it where it's like, yes, my role is to sacrifice the role that I queued up as to do something else, and I'm expected to do that all the time. And if you know what, if the tank gets low, I'm expected to pop a cure. No, it's the fucking healer's job to pop a cure. Your job is to use that cure to res people so the healer can keep healing the tank. And that's it. That's your utility. That's not your role. So no, I don't think, no. The answer is no. They're never going to do a hybrid. They're never going to legit do, I am a DPS and a healer, and I do these 2 things at the same time. They have it already at Scholar. They're never going to, like, make it, design a job around that idea, though. Alright, the final question, number 16. Hello, Mr. Happy. I'm a first-time asker, so I have a bonus of getting World First on Ultimate Titan. Yeah, no one needs a monk. So, thanks for the words of encouragement, but, sad face. Anyway, I tune in every week, love all your content. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Question, I'm a fresh 70 monk and I have my gear, I have my melt, I have my rotation. But my movement for positionals needs some work. I've been using the default mouse right-click WASD to move. That's how I do it. Just does not cut it. I consulted your old Keep On video you mentioned you use QW. Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. I use QWES. I don't think I quite understand. Right now, Q and E are strafe buttons, but it doesn't give me a good feel of control where my character is going and facing. How can I fix my movement keybinds to make it seamless to get off ability? You just need to learn to move. There's nothing more to that. Q and E are strafes for a good reason. You hold right-click and you strafe. and then you just move around the boss. You just need to work on your movement, man. The only other way you're going to get any better at this is by locking onto the target. And if you lock onto the target and go to the right or the left, then guess what? You rotate between the left and the right. You got to remember which direction your character is on is the important thing. Which direction your character is facing only matters for certain attacks. Your characters do auto attack regardless of what direction they're facing now. So as long as you're on the correct side, you're good. Also, by the way, don't stand on a side for the entirety of your animation. Like, don't wait till the dragon kick's entire animation has gone off. As soon as you hit that button and the animation has started, if you need to move to the rear for anything, you should already be moving. You shouldn't be waiting till the end of the animation. So, I don't know. It's hard to tell without actually seeing the way you're trying to strafe, but those are just a few basic things. Strafing gets you to and from a lot more efficiently, in my opinion, than A and D and holding right click. I don't know, for me, it's just always been that way, and it's super easy. It just takes time, it takes practice. But that's the last question on the forums. I will see if we can have any interesting questions in the chat, and if not, then we'll wrap the video up here. So chat, surprise me. Alright, so the first question we have from the chat, I guess I'll address it kind of in a different way. Happy, for comrades and possibly for Final Fantasy 16 Plus, would you like to see more weapon customization and leveling rather than pure character leveling? Would you also like to see Final Fantasy 12 monographs? No! I hated monographs! They actually were pretty good. I don't know. I never got into the monograph system for 12. It just didn't entertain me very much. I don't know, that's a matter of preference. I think that you need to have more than just leveling in any single-player RPG. Even in multiplayer RPGs, I always say that like you really don't have a choice. So making sure your choices are very simple, which is what Final Fantasy 14 does. And honestly, even Comrades, while there is quite a bit of min-maxing, it does make your choices are pretty straightforward in that game. So if you are going to give players choice, then that's kind of just the big thing. You just need something that isn't just leveling in RPGs in general, even if you don't actually have a choice. And by the time you get to end game, it's a multiplayer game. Everyone expects you to have a very specific skill set or a very specific, gear type and whatever. Even if that's the case, the illusion of choice makes people happy. I see past the illusion of choice, and therefore gear to me in games does not matter. But for single-player RPGs, and this is why when I'm playing through Comrades, I say, wow, this would have benefited the main game so much, is that experience is all you. It is all your own. So customization and playing it exactly the way you want to is paramount in the success of single-player RPGs. So yes, for Final Fantasy 16 and honestly RPGs in general, having a system where you can fully customize gear, whether it be a crafting or anything along those lines, I feel that's integral, for me at least, for a single-player RPG. And if you don't have that, you've already kind of lost some points with me in regards to being an RPG in the first place. Alright, the next question we have from the chat is MrHappy, having recently played 11 and currently playing 14. Well, I mean, I just played 11 today because I'm still finishing up the Seeker's story quest. How do you think MMOs have improved in the genre over the years? So that is a very double-edged sword type of question, because the way I answer this is going to get blowback one way or the other. So the thing is, most of the improvements to MMOs over the ages have been all about convenience and actual functionality, whereas some people look at that convenience as what has kind of caused the decline of MMOs. MMOs haven't declined, there's just so many more choices now than there used to be, that the actual communities within MMOs are not like, hey, you're either playing this or this. No, you're playing like this, this, or this. You know what I mean? So people are generally a bit more spread out, and they tend to hop around a little bit more. And new companies are always trying to come out with new MMOs all the time. So some people see the convenience of being able to jump in and out of MMOs as one of the bad things. But it's just because they've all kind of evolved and understand that people have faster lives nowadays. Maybe it's the leveling process. Maybe it's the ability to level solo that people love so much. That's a huge thing. Leveling solo in old school MMOs wasn't something super easy to do. Not just Final Fantasy 11, but other ones as well. The ability to, tackle old content alone, or the ability to, access crafting materials, or, to have quests that tell you where to go next. That used to be a fucking luxury, to have a quest tell you where to go next. Even thinking back to World of Warcraft, I had to install an add-on to do that shit, where it was the one that tracked all your quests and the areas they took place and shit. Just that, that is a thing that people forget games didn't used to have. Final Fantasy 11 still doesn't fucking have it, but that's besides the point. Like, just think about that. Like, those are the types of conveniences that we have gotten over the years and we take for granted now. Everything about quality of life and convenience, even just the way that user interface is made, has improved. From a functional standpoint, MMOs are better off now than they ever were, looking back like 15 years. However, those conveniences have led people to go very quickly through these games, and as such, that's where you come with the other side of the argument, where people say, well, all this convenience has killed the sense of community. You know, the ability to hop into a dungeon without having to actually ask people if they wanted to do the dungeon first. Just say, hey, I want to do the dungeon. Bam, here I am. I'm in the dungeon. Wow, these other people are in the dungeon too. I didn't even have to communicate with them. You know, it's a super convenient thing, but then people will be like, well, that killed the sense of community, you know. Or, hey, you know, I can now teleport anywhere I want by using these specific things. Great, I can go from here to here to here. Fantastic. I don't have to spend hours of my life just traveling. But that shortens the lifespan, and it makes it so you never need to rely on other players for a resource of transportation, thus destroying markets in certain games, or just, again, destroying the sense of community, because if someone's a dickwad, you could have denied them a teleport in the past. So, it's all about convenience versus sense of community in a lot of people, and let me tell you, the convenience, the quality of life, that has gotten a million times better, but apparently planes are still loud. Alright, that was actually the last question. I answered a few more in the chat, but none that are really going to be added to this video. So thank you everyone for asking your questions this week. Those of you in the Twitch chat, those of you over on the forums. If you'd like to ask a question for next week's episode, be sure to check the description of the YouTube video for the forum link that will take you to the place where you can ask that question. Or show up on my Twitch chat sometime around 12:30 p.m. Pacific on Sunday when we actually do the recording live. And then after I'm done with the forum questions, I take some Twitch questions as well. But anyway, thank you for watching. I'll hang out with my Twitch chat for a few more minutes. But those of you on YouTube, you guys are awesome. I will see you guys next week. And until then, take care.